Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be taking a look at the 12th hexagram of the Yi Jing,
Okay.
which is known as Pi, or standstill. And I think, just hearing that title, you might be thinking standstill. Like,
Right.
it's not really that exciting of a topic
It doesn't
to
sound
dive into. But
super exciting on the surface.
yeah, but,
Yeah.
the Yi Jing is all about, understanding the energies at play.
Exactly.
And sometimes standstill isn't a negative thing.
Appearances can be deceiving.
Yeah.
The Yi Jing, it's this ancient Chinese text. It's really all about understanding the different energies at play in a situation. And sometimes standstill is actually like a necessary pause, a time for reflection and recalibration.
Okay.
Before you know.
I'm intrigued. Moving on to the next thing.
Yeah. So imagine you're feeling stuck.
Right.
Maybe it's in your career, your relationships, just life in general.
The Yi Jing with this hexagram pi is like having a wise old sage whisper in your ear.
Yeah, for sure.
Offering guidance on how to navigate that feeling.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating is that pi, unlike some of the other hexagrams, it doesn't, pull any punches. It's really acknowledging the difficulty, the disharmony, the blockage.
Right.
But within that acknowledgement, there are some really profound effects.
So it's like, instead of sugarcoating things, it's giving us the straight talk.
Exactly.
But with a side of ancient wisdom.
Precisely.
Okay, I like that.
It's like, hey, you're in a tough spot.
Yeah.
But here's how to understand it and maybe even find a way forward.
Okay, cool. So let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, let's do it.
Of pi. What's the first thing that jumps out at you when you look at this hexagram?
For me, it's the imagery.
Okay.
Right off the bat, the Yi Jing paints this picture of a tiger falling into a pit, which really, symbolizes that feeling of being trapped, where moving forward seems impossible.
Yeah.
And even retreating feels difficult.
That's a really powerful image. I can definitely relate to that feeling of being stuck.
For sure.
And it's not just a fleeting feeling, right?
No, not at all.
The hexagram structure itself reinforces this idea of standstill.
Absolutely. Yeah, the hexagram is made up of 2 trigrams.
Oh, okay.
Heaven, which is represented by 3 unbroken lines, is placed above Earth, which is represented by 3 broken lines. And in this configuration, there's a distinct lack of communication or flow between these 2 fundamental forces.
Hold on, let me make sure I'm visualizing this correctly.
Sure.
So we've got heaven all strong and solid up top.
Exactly.
And Earth maybe a bit more yielding down below. But they're not exactly vibing, right?
Exactly. They're kind of speaking 2 different languages.
Yeah.
They're not quite understanding each other. And so this disconnect between heaven and earth, this standstill, really speaks to like a deeper disharmony that we might experience in our own lives.
Yeah. Okay. So if heaven and earth aren't on speaking terms, what does that mean for us down here on well earth?
Well, it can really manifest in a lot of ways.
Right.
Frustration in relationships, roadblocks in your career, or even just that nagging feeling that something's just off in your life. It's like the energy is stagnant. It's preventing things from moving forward smoothly.
It's funny because when I first heard about the Yi Jing, I thought it was all about predicting the future, like a fortune cookie.
Oh, interesting.
But it seems to be more about understanding the present, the energies at play right now.
That's a great observation.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Yi Jing isn't about giving you like a fixed roadmap or anything.
Right.
It's about providing insights into the current situation and offering guidance on how to navigate it wisely.
And speaking of guidance, let's talk about the specific interpretations that are associated with pi.
Sure.
The general fortune, for instance. It paints a pretty bleak picture, mentioning blockage and the need for patience.
Right. It definitely doesn't sugarcoat things.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to remember that the Yi Jing doesn't offer like fixed predictions. It's not like a set in stone kind of thing.
Right.
Instead, it's like holding up a mirror, reflecting the potential challenges so that you can prepare for them.
Okay.
And maybe even find a way to mitigate them.
So it's not saying doom and gloom are guaranteed.
Exactly.
It's more like, hey, heads up. There might be some rough waters ahead, so maybe grab a life vest and learn to navigate the waves.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And what about the other interpretations? We've got love, health, lost items.
Right.
Even litigation.
Yeah.
They seem to touch upon some pretty diverse areas of life.
They do. And that's what makes pi so fascinating.
Yeah.
It really speaks to this universal experience of standstill, how it can kind of permeate different aspects of our lives.
Right.
So whether it's a relationship that's hitting a snag, a health issue that's throwing you off balance, or even a legal battle that's causing major stress, the underlying energy is that of blockage and disharmony.
Okay.
You know, it's like each of these interpretations is a different lens through which we can view this idea of standstill.
Yeah.
So, for example, in the love reading, Pi suggests the possibility of separation, highlighting the importance of understanding and respecting opposing forces.
Okay, so imagine you're going through a rough patch in your relationship.
Right.
The Yi Jing isn't saying break up immediately.
Exactly.
Instead, it's prompting you to look at the situation with a fresh perspective.
Yeah.
To see how these opposing forces like yin and yang are at play.
Exactly. Maybe there's a fundamental difference in values.
Right.
Or perhaps you've both grown and changed in ways that are causing some friction.
Yeah.
The Yi Jing through Pi is encouraging you to examine those opposing forces.
Okay.
To see if there's a way to harmonize them. Or if it's time to accept that the relationship has run its course.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's not about making a rash decision.
Right.
But rather taking a step back, understanding the energies at play.
Exactly.
And then making a conscious choice.
Yeah.
And it seems like this theme of conscious choice runs through a lot of Pi's interpretation.
Absolutely. Take the health reading, for instance.
Okay.
Pi specifically mentions potential issues with the brain, the lungs, and gastrointestinal tract.
Okay.
It even cautions against cancer.
Oh, wow.
Now, this isn't meant to scare you,
right,
but rather to empower you
to
take proactive steps towards your well-being.
So instead of freaking out, you're saying it's a reminder to listen to your body.
Exactly.
Maybe schedule those checkups you've been putting off.
Right.
And make healthier choices overall.
Exactly. It's about taking ownership of your health. Understanding that even in a state of standstill, you still have agency.
Okay, that makes me feel a bit more empowered, even amidst all these potentially challenging interpretations.
Yeah.
But what about the lost items reading?
Right.
It suggests a low chance of recovery, almost like saying, let it go, move on.
Right.
How does that fit into this idea of conscious choice?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
You see, sometimes standstill isn't about pushing forward, but rather about accepting what is.
Okay.
And in the case of lost items, it's about recognizing when it's time to release your attachment to something.
Right.
Even if it holds sentimental value.
So it's like instead of dwelling on the loss and clinging to the past, it's encouraging you to focus on the present and what you can control.
Precisely. It's a reminder that sometimes letting go is the most liberating thing you can do.
Okay.
And this idea of letting go of releasing attachment, this is echoed in another fascinating aspect of Pi, the line-by-line interpretations.
Okay, this is where things get really juicy, right?
This is where it gets good.
Yeah.
Each line within the hexagram adds like another layer of nuance to our understanding of standstill. And some of these lines are truly thought-provoking. For instance, there's one that says, the obstruction is not caused by people. Now, at first glance, this might seem kind of counterintuitive. You know, we often like to blame external factors or other people for our feeling of being stuck.
Right. It's easy to say, oh, it's my boss's fault. I'm not getting promoted.
Right. Exactly.
Or it's my partner's fault. Our relationship is in a rut.
Exactly.
But this line is challenging us to look inward, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's suggesting that sometimes the biggest obstacle we face is ourselves.
Okay.
Our own limiting beliefs, our fears, our resistance to change.
Right.
It's a powerful reminder that true transformation often begins with self-reflection.
So before we go pointing fingers,
we
need to take a good hard look in the mirror and see what role we might be playing in our own standstill.
Exactly. And, you know, this idea of self-reflection, it's further emphasized in another line. It says, pulling up thatch grass, using it for the roof, persistence is auspicious, prosperous.
Okay.
Now, this might seem like kind of a random image.
Yeah.
But it really speaks volumes about the power of small, consistent actions, even in the face of stagnation.
So even though we might feel stuck,
it's
not about making these grand gestures or forcing our way through.
Exactly.
It's about taking those small daily steps, like diligently gathering thatch for the roof. That eventually lead to a more solid foundation.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that even in a state of standstill, we still have the power to create positive change one step at a time.
I like that.
And this reminds me of another intriguing line.
Okay.
It says, its loss is tied to the mulberry tree.
Okay.
Now, the mulberry tree holds a lot of symbolism in Chinese culture. It's
often associated with resilience, transformation, and even sacrifice.
Okay, I'm picturing a mulberry tree, strong and enduring.
Yeah.
But what does this have to do with standstill and this idea of loss?
Well, it suggests that sometimes in order to move forward, we need to let go of something that might be holding us back.
Okay.
This could be a belief, a relationship, a habit, or even a dream that no longer serves us.
Right.
It's about recognizing that sometimes loss is a necessary part of growth.
So it's like pruning back the old branches.
Exactly.
To make way for new growth.
Yeah.
Even though it might feel painful in the moment.
Right.
It ultimately allows for a more vibrant and fruitful tree in the long run.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Thanks.
And this whole conversation about letting go.
Yeah.
About recognizing what no longer serves us. It reminds me of another line that really speaks to the importance of adapting to the current situation.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
What does this line say?
It says, embracing what is carried, small people are auspicious. For the great person, obstruction, prosperous.
Wow.
Now, this might sound a bit cryptic, but it really highlights the difference between two approaches to standstill.
So we've got small people and great people.
Right.
Are we talking about literal size here, or is there something deeper going on?
It's not about physical stature. It's more about mindset and approach.
Okay.
So small people, in this context, represent those who are adaptable, flexible, and resourceful.
Okay.
They kind of embrace what's happening, even the obstacles.
Right.
And they find a way to make it work for them.
So they're not necessarily small in a negative sense.
Right.
But rather agile.
Yeah.
And able to navigate the twists and turns of life with a sense of ease.
Exactly. They're like the bamboo that bends with the wind rather than breaking under pressure.
Right.
And then on the other hand, we have the great person.
Okay.
Who often represents someone who is more rigid, fixed in their ways, and trying to force their will on the situation.
So even though they might have good intentions,
right,
their resistance to change actually creates more blockage.
Precisely. This line reminds us that sometimes the key to overcoming standstill is humility, adaptability, and a willingness to let go of our preconceived notions of how things should be.
It's a reminder to be open to new possibilities and approaches.
Exactly.
Even if they're not what we originally envisioned.
Exactly. And this brings us to another crucial aspect of Pi that I think is incredibly relevant to your listeners. It's the idea that standstill is not a punishment, but rather a natural part of the cycle.
Okay, I'm sensing a theme here.
Right.
It's like the Yi Jing is repeatedly urging us to shift our perspective.
Yeah.
To see standstill, not as a dead end, but as an opportunity for growth.
You're absolutely right. And there's a line that really beautifully captures this sentiment. It says, there is an order, no blame. In the past, there was happiness. Now, this line is packed with wisdom.
Yeah.
But what stands out to you?
Well, the phrase no blame really jumps out at me. It's like the Yi Jing is saying, hey, it's okay to feel stuck.
Right.
It's not your fault. Don't beat yourself up about it.
Right.
There's a bigger picture here.
That's a beautiful insight.
Yeah.
And the line also points to the fact that there was happiness in the past.
Right.
It's a reminder that even though things might feel challenging right now, you've experienced joy and fulfillment before, and you can access that again.
It's like acknowledging that even though the road might be bumpy right now, you've successfully navigated similar terrain in the past.
Yeah.
And you have the inner strength to do it again.
Exactly. And there's one more line that I think perfectly encapsulates this idea of overcoming standstill and finding joy on the other side. It says, overthrows the obstruction. First there is obstruction, then joy. What do you make of that?
Well, it's like the classic hero's journey, right? You face challenges, you encounter obstacles.
Right.
But eventually you overcome them.
Yeah.
And you emerge stronger and wiser.
Yeah.
And the joy that follows is all the more sweeter because you've earned it through your perseverance.
Beautifully said.
Thanks.
It's a reminder that the path to growth and fulfillment It's rarely a straight line.
Right.
You know, there will be twists and turns, ups and downs,
Yeah.
periods of standstill, and moments of breakthrough.
Yeah.
But the key is to remember that the cycle continues, and joy often follows a period of obstruction.
Okay. I'm definitely feeling more optimistic about this whole standstill thing.
Good.
It's not a dead end,
It's not.
but rather a point of transition,
Yeah.
a time for reflection, recalibration, and ultimately renewal.
Exactly. And, you know, this whole discussion about Hexagram Pi and its individual lines brings to mind another fascinating aspect of the Yi Jing.
Okay.
It's the idea that each hexagram is connected to others,
Okay.
creating this intricate web of meaning.
Hold on. I'm picturing a giant spider web, but instead of spiders, we've got these profound hexagrams,
Yeah.
each interconnected and influencing the others.
Yeah.
Am I on the right track? It's not so much a spider web, but more like this cosmic dance
Yes.
with each hexagram like flowing into the next,
Yeah.
creating this intricate tapestry of change and transformation.
Exactly. Each hexagram doesn't exist in isolation. You know,
Right.
it's all part of like this larger dynamic system.
Okay.
And understanding those connections can really deepen your understanding of the Yi Jing as a whole.
So where does pi, our standstill hexagram,
Right.
fit into this grand cosmic dance?
Well, if you look at the sequence of hexagrams,
Oh.
pi is followed by tai,
Yeah.
which represents peace.
So after a period of standstill,
Right.
we have the potential to move into a state of harmony and balance.
Exactly.
That's reassuring.
The Yi Jing suggests that these states are not fixed,
Okay.
but rather part of like a
Okay.
continuous cycle.
Right.
So stagnation will often precede a breakthrough,
Uh.
just as peace can eventually give way to new challenges.
It's like that saying, after the storm comes the calm.
Right,
And
exactly.
then another storm might be brewing on the horizon.
Precisely. Life is all about navigating those transitions,
Yeah.
those shifts in energy.
Mm-hmm.
And the Yi Jing really provides a framework
Okay.
for understanding and working with those shifts.
So even though pi represents standstill,
Right.
it's not a dead end,
It's not a dead end.
but rather a point of transition.
Yeah. A time for reflection and recalibration.
It's like hitting the pause button not to give up,
Huh.
but to make sure you're heading in the right direction
Yes.
when you press play again.
Exactly. And this idea of standstill as like a necessary pause,
Yeah.
it's also reflected in the fact that pi is considered a lower hexagram.
Lower hexagram.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So the Yi Jing is often visualized as a circle
Okay.
with the hexagrams arranged in a specific order.
Go ahead.
And the lower hexagrams, including pi,
Okay.
they represent a descent into the depths,
Okay.
a period of introspection and inner work.
So it's not about being lower in a hierarchical sense,
Right.
but rather about going inward,
Yeah,
exploring your own shadows and confronting your own inner obstacles.
precisely. It's in these depths and these moments of standstill
Right.
that you can kind of uncover hidden truths about yourself
Yeah.
and discover that potential for transformation.
Like the hero's journey descending into the underworld
Exactly.
before emerging, stronger and wiser.
Exactly. And just as the hero eventually returns from the underworld, so too do you emerge from the standstill
Oh.
with a renewed sense of purpose and direction.
Well, this entire deep dive into Hexagram Pi has been incredibly enlightening,
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's amazing how this ancient text, like the
Yeah.
Yi Jing, can offer such timeless wisdom
Mm-hmm.
that's still relevant to our lives even today.
Yeah, it's a reminder that the challenges we face, the periods of standstill we experience,
Right.
they're not unique to us.
Yeah,
They're part of a larger pattern, this cosmic dance of ebb and flow.
exactly.
So for our listeners out there who might be feeling stuck,
Yeah.
remember that standstill is not the end.
No, it's not.
It's an invitation to go inward,
Uh-huh.
to reflect, to recalibrate,
Yeah.
and to emerge stronger on the other side.
And perhaps most importantly,
Yeah.
it's a reminder that even in the midst of stagnation,
Uh-huh.
the potential for growth and positive change
Right.
is always present.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well, as always, it's been a pleasure diving deep with you.
The pleasure was all mine. Until next time,
Yeah?
keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking the wisdom that lies within
Yeah?
and all around you.
And if you find yourself feeling a bit stuck,
Yes,
remember to revisit Hexagram Pi.
absolutely.
It might just offer the insights you need to navigate your own standstill
Yeah.
and emerge renewed.
Happy reflecting, everyone.